Welcome to Chapters, everyone. Thank you all for joining in on this discussion of picking up the pieces to 100 Broken Promises. I am Yushima Cherry Burks, your host and the author of said book. Every Sunday for the next 9 weeks, we will be discussing one chapter from my book. Okay, panel, it's time to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do. Let's start up here with Mark.
Good afternoon. I am Mark Joyner. I am Yushima's cousin, and I am here solely to support her. She asked me to be on the panel, and how could I say no?
You can't. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, Sean.
Hi, I'm Shunketta Burton. I am a friend of Yushima's. We met in 1999, and we have been friends since. Lost communication, but the love and the respect and the support has always been there. So, yeah, I'm here for that.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Okay, Newbie.
I'm Nubian Star. I'm an artist, writer, all things creative. This is my sister, and I'm here to support her as well. But I love to read, and this book was one of the best books I've read in 2020.
Hey, I accept and receive it. Thank you. All right, Chanelle. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chanelle Wesley. Yushima and I go back since forever. Literally, I love this woman. I'm here. I'm also a writer. But what was so unique to me about this book, it was just really just capitalizing on a Black woman who was healing. And I loved what the book was saying. And so this really resonated with me. So I'm just here to support her and be along for this journey.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Twin. I appreciate it. Well, we are all connected in one way or another, and I appreciate you all for taking the time to be here and to support me and also to be a part of this journey with me and my viewers. So without further ado, let's get started. Today, we're discussing Chapter 1. The titles in Chapter 1 include Fool's Gold, Reckless Behavior, Making New Memories, Dead Inside, Knee Deep, and Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Chapter 1 introduces the book. It talks about how my ex-husband, Mitch, abandoned me and our son when he was 2 years old for another woman that he ran off to and he married. After 10 years, she decided to finally divorce him. And her and I talked about it. Because there had been babies born and a lot of infidelity and other things in that marriage. And the only reason she stayed with him in that relationship because she valued marriage so much. Otherwise, she would have left him years ago, but she stuck it out for 10 years because her value was to remain married to the first man that she ever connected to, that she married. So when she filed for divorce, she received a letter in the mail. She thought that it was the state of Georgia granting her divorce. Instead, she found out that she was never legally married to him because he married her while he was still legally married to me. He wouldn't grant me my divorce for 2 years. He wouldn't sign the papers, but they had a nice big wedding. Her family was there. He went through the whole rigmarole, even though he knew he was still legally married to me. So here's my question to you all. What would you do if you found out that your spouse was living a double life? Would you confront your spouse? Would you confront the other family? Would you leave or would you stay? The floor is open. Anybody can answer.
I'll jump in quick. There's definitely going to be a confrontation. Mm-hmm. And with something so, such a break in trust, such a deception, I couldn't really see sticking that one out. Mm-hmm. That's not like I'm eating in the car and you don't know about it type of lie. That's like a total, I don't know who you really are.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, I'm confronting you, I'm leaving you, I'm gonna try to not get violent. But something is definitely going to take place.
Absolutely. Understandable. You see, I didn't put that as an option, but I'm
I
glad.
know. I just had to throw that in because I
Yeah.
think if I were to find out that you was really still married,
Yeah,
might be a little bit.
a little bit. Okay.
I don't get done violence. This is just my personal opinion.
I can't comment one way or another because we all know, if you've read my book, that I've had my time in the slammer. So thank you, though. Thanks for your, this makes Mark so uncomfortable. I just want everyone to look at Mark's face whenever I bring up anything that can shame our family. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Ruby. All right. And someone else.
I would have to say that a conversation would have to be had. But I would be so hurt because that's 10 years of you and this person sharing a life. And I'm quite sure before you got married that you dated,
Mhm.
you know, you were boyfriend and girlfriend. And so to me, I would just look back and just say everything was a lie. No matter if you did love me, well, oh, you could not have loved me if you lied to me for this long and put me in a situation like this.
Mhm.
You know, I think with a lot of people is that they aren't truthful with the person they're in a relationship with because they feel that the other person might reject them, but don't put me into anything that I didn't sign up for. And I'm quite sure that this person did not sign up to go through all of this. That's a lot of money. You think
Mhm.
about the wedding, you think about other people's commitment. So it's like a trickle effect, you
Yep.
know, throughout the whole thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I couldn't stay. Um, you know, anybody else could have, you know, but me personally, I couldn't stay. I
Yeah.
could not stay because if you don't have trust, you don't have a friendship, you don't have a relationship, you don't have a marriage on top of all of that. So I will most definitely leave.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for your very common point of view because I'm with you 110%. Thank you. Okay. Chanelle or Mark, what do you think? What would you do?
Well, I just have to piggyback off of what they both said. I mean, it's deceit on so many different levels. And just the tangible things that she lost, of course, which were, you know, finances, um, their holdings together, the things that they accumulated over that time, but her time, she can
Yeah.
never get that time back. You know, he robbed her on levels. Just the fact that things were not cleared, he didn't clearly clean up the household with ending the first marriage and allowing you to be able to heal and to move on appropriately. And then he brought this other woman and her family, if she had children, all these things into it as well. So it was just, I mean, he was just violating people across the board. It was just selfish. And there was definitely going to be a confrontation. And I'm gonna high five Nubian from over here. We're gonna hope and pray it doesn't get violent. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't fight with anybody like that. I mean, that's systematic. You know, it wasn't like a one-time thing. He did this lie over a period of years. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? And it was manipulation. I'm
Mhm.
sure he understood her values and he manipulated and played upon those things. And that's what allowed him to be able just to be in that position of power for so long. But yes, I definitely high five my sisters, and I'm definitely in the comments. I will be praying for peace like Sean and not want to be a bigger person just to walk away. But I feel maybe I was thinking about some violent acts. I really did.
Absolutely. And I would be there to bail any of you out if I needed to. Thank you very much. And Mark. Oh, so scared. Go ahead.
No, I don't even, to answer your question, would there be a confrontation? Absolutely. I'd address the person, but that's just so crazy to me. I can't even comprehend that because that's such a lack of integrity and character on his part. I don't even comprehend that, like I said. So it just speaks volumes of what type of person that was. I don't understand how there was no sign that that person was that way prior to. You know what I mean? I don't understand that. But no, to answer your question, I would definitely confront the person themselves. There's no reason to confront the family. I mean, they're in the dark more than likely, just like, you were, but there would definitely be a confrontation with that person and see what you can get. Someone that caliber of person, I doubt if they had any assets or anything tangible to go after as far as a divorce or things of that matter. But all you could do is like kind of reclaim your own sanity, your peace, and move forward from there. I mean, that's an extremely hard lesson learned
It
in that
is.
case. That's all I can really say on it.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Mark. He actually had a very successful and still has a very successful tattoo shop that he put in her name, so that he can get the loan to get everything started. So he did the
Well,
same.
then if that's the case, if you put in her name and that's a woman-owned business, there's several things that she can actually do about that
Absolutely.
to recoup. There's a lot she can do in that regard. Then, so
When
yeah.
when she found out, he did he left that business, dissolved that business, and opened it up in the new woman's name that he was cheating on her with. So when we were married, he had opened up several businesses in my name without me knowing, right? And I don't know if it's because he was able to do that because he was white, because I was trying to get loans and I couldn't, and my credit was A1. You hear me? But he walked into a bank and got loans under my name, and I was like, how is this? And I worked at a bank, so anyway, that's a whole nother story. But yes, he absolutely had assets, and I hope that she was able to receive some type of emotional piece, but also something tangible that could compensate her for her losses and for her time. Like you said, Chanelle, she could never get that time back. And to be betrayed in such a horrible way, my heart went out to her. She was a wonderful woman. She didn't know that he was still married to me. He had told her that I left him for another woman and moved back to Wisconsin. And it was just a hope. But the narcissistic behavior, this is very common in that realm. And when you're an empath, narcissists attach themselves to you. And I believe she was an empath as well. So he was very deceptive and very convincing. So thank you all for your viewpoints, and moving on. Also in the same chapter, I introduced my dad. My dad, those of you, he was my best friend. It discusses our relationship and the lessons that he taught me. The first chapter is the total foundation for the book. So it gives an overview of the things that I will be discussing. So it kind of jumps back and forth. It foreshadows and it goes back into my past. Well, my dad, he's gone today. He passed away in 2015. When he passed, I knew he was proud of me. I knew he loved me. He told me often every time we talked. But I was still depressed and I was overweight and I was just unhappy overall. And he never really got to see me happy, self-actualized. He never really got to see me after I started the healing process. So with that said, if he were still here, I would just want him to know that his prayers were answered and that everything that he's ever taught me meant something valuable to me, and that he was such an intricate part of my life that I would do the best that I can to honor him. If any of you have a deceased parent or an estranged parent, what is one thing that you would like for them to know about you now?
Okay, I'll start
I'll
that
start.
one.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Which one?
You can go ahead. You can
Ladies
go on.
first.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Okay, thank you. I did not have a relationship with my biological father. I can count on one hand how many times I saw him and have fingers left over.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So, so I didn't have that relationship with him. I didn't have that connection with him. So honestly, I I wouldn't want him to know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've and it's not that I'm bitter. Um, it's just that I never needed you. You know what I mean? So um I probably needed you to when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as trying to rekindle a relationship, and the crazy part, you all, when I was quick story, I came to Wisconsin in '85 for the summer. I started hanging out with this girl who lived on, my uncle lived on 64th and Carmen, and she lived on, so he lived on Carmen and she lived on 64th. So we used to always go up to the school and watch the kids play. Come to find out, she was my cousin on my father's side. He married her auntie. So my sisters and brothers that's on my father's side, who I've never seen before, are her cousins. And we just got to talking. We started talking about my grandmother, and they was like, "Oh, your grandmother, blah 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 blah." You know, long story short. So she moved back to Tennessee, and she gave him my number. So he ended up calling me when I was in the 12th grade. And at that time, I wanted a relationship with him so bad that because I felt like I was missing, you know, how you see your friends, you know, with their fathers and stuff like that. And I felt like I was missing that, like, oh, you know, I never had that, you know. So when he called, I allowed open arms.
Mm-hmm.
I allowed him to come with open arms. I didn't ask any questions or anything like that. And, but he was still lying to me. He was still lying to me. So I was in the 12th grade. So, you know, I needed money, you know, for prom, you know, senior pictures and things like that. Oh, I put the money in the mail. I call him a week later or two. Oh, you know, I put it in. Oh, I forgot to put it in the mail, you know, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, forget it. So then I moved to Memphis. They always seem to locate me. So I had moved to Memphis and my grandmother was in the hospital. So he came to pick me up, you know. So I'm like, you know, okay. The last time I saw him, my grandmother called me and told me he was in the hospital, that he had shot himself in the hand. And I was like, oh, for real? And she was like, yeah, but he told me don't call nobody or whatever. So I had my friend, mind you, I wasn't driving at the time. I had my friend to pick me up and take me to the hospital. And he introduced me as Ethel's daughter. He didn't say this is my daughter with Ethel. He introduced me as Ethel's daughter. You got damn right, I'm Ethel's daughter.
Right.
Every day, all day, 365.
Right.
You know, so at that moment I was like, he isn't trying to have a connection with me,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I just left him alone. I didn't call him anymore. Then when I got married and moved to California, he called me because my grandmother had passed.
Mm.
And he was like, yeah, I was calling you, you know, so I can tell you that your grandmother passed and stuff like that. And I found out I'm a grandfather, you know, I would like to, you know, if you could send me pictures and stuff like that. I'm like, you're not getting ready to, no, I can't do that. Like, you know, it's like, it's like a relationship that you may need in your life, but you don't want because it's
Mm-hmm.
no good coming out of it. It's a toxic relationship.
Absolutely.
It was a
Mm-hmm.
toxic relationship, even though we didn't have a relationship, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
toxic relationship. Lies, you
Yeah.
know, abandonment, you know, all of that stuff. And you want, you know, yeah. So, yeah. So,
And
I would.
rejection, because when he
Yeah.
had an opportunity to introduce you into the fold, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To let the world know, even though it was just the couple of people in that room, to you,
Right.
that was your world because you didn't have that
Right.
relationship. He could have very easily said, this is my daughter with Ethel. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is our
Right.
daughter. This is my daughter, even if he didn't mention
Mm-hmm.
it. Because you 100%
Yeah.
And he is just like you, 100% your mom. So
Exactly.
that must have been very traumatizing. And
It was at the age of 19.
yeah, it's like it would have made me want to run out of the room
I
just
did.
knowing how, yeah. Because
You
it
know,
would
I
have
said I said my 2 cents, my nickel, my 25, my 50-cent piece.
Lord.
I said all of that before I left.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
That is devastating. Thank you for sharing. Who else wants to share?
Mark was next.
Mark was next.
Well, my situation was different. I lost my mom in 2016, June 16th of 2016. And I was blessed beyond measure to have my mother. She was such an essential part of my life. I still live my life to almost for my parents' approval, so to speak. They really ingrained so much in me as far as being a man of great integrity. I learned my dad really wasn't one to sit down and speak to me the way I do with my children today, but I learned a lot from him through watching him. And my mother was just, you name it, old school, stayed at home and was a phenomenal housekeeper and just taught me and poured into me tons of things. What I would want her to see today is that my wife and I's level of success, because she was always proud of us and what we've accomplished together. And we've accomplished so much more in these past 4 years. And it's just the beginning for us. I'm excited for our future together. And I know she will be proud. My dad reminds me almost daily. I speak to him daily. And he lets me know that he's proud of me and she would be proud of me as well. So if I could pick my parents, if we had that ability to do that, I would go back and pick them over and over again. That's how blessed I was to have my parents. So.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful. And I love both of them dearly. Your mom had the softest, sweetest voice, and she was just such a sweet, sweet woman, and she can cook. You got the cooking from her, I'm sure.
Both of them.
Benny be slamming too. He ain't never cooked when I was over there. It was always on Susie. So
You ain't
I
never had my daddy cooking?
I ain't never had his cooking. So
Oh, damn, you missing
about
out.
time. I'm missing out. Next time I come in, I fully expect the plates. Okay. But thank you for sharing, Mark. They are your mom is truly missed. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Who else wants to share? Chanelle.
I'll say this. It's hard, and I'm gonna say this. Both of my parents are deceased. My father died in 1990 when I was 13 years old. Just an amazing man, a man of character, a man of strength, very family oriented. And when he died, I was so young. I have a lot of fond memories, but he didn't get a chance to see me grow up or to have children or get married or do any of those things. See his grandchildren, things that I would have wished that he would have been able to see. And if he were here now, I would really hope that he would be proud of who I've become. Not all my choices have been good. I have to own my good and my bad, but I'm growing. So I would hope that he would be proud of the growth that I've had over the years. And then for my mother, she passed in 2016. And it's hard to lose your mother. It's very hard to lose your father. It is, but I think because sometimes you can be so much alike a person, like so much like a person that you can bump heads. You have the best, things for each other, but you're so much like this person. And sometimes you think you know better or you know what's best, but every day that I get older, I see how wise she was. My mother was an amazing woman. She's a God-fearing woman. She was a woman of value, very educated, very driven. Anything that she set her heart to do, she would just do it, and she would do it to the best of her ability. And that's one of those things that she truly passed down to me. And I'm gonna say, since the 40 years that she's been gone, I would hope that she would see me and again see some type of growth. Again, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm I'm on my journey and I'm making my way. And Kamoy, I just wanted to say that your father was so amazing. He was an amazing man, a man of character. I came to Oakwood, didn't have a ride to go from Nashville to Huntsville. My mom got on the phone, called her dad. Dad came and picked me up, sit down, took me back to Huntsville. I mean, he's like, if you need anything, just call. I mean, just an amazing man, so giving, so loving, so caring. So I'm sorry for your loss, and Mark, for your loss as well as your mom. And Sean, I'm just praying that you continue to heal and that God gives you everything that you need, that you have that peace that you need.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I was going to say the same about your mom, too. When she used to teach us in Sabbath school and always call on me because I was a teacher's pet and I always knew my Bible verses. And I had haters even in Sabbath school because I always been an overachiever. But she was just always sweet and loving to me, too. So thank you. Thank you for that. Sean, my dad I would call him. When he moved from Wisconsin to here to Alabama. He's the reason why I'm here in Alabama, Madison, Alabama now. But when I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Madison, Wisconsin, I could call my dad. I need you to come and get me. He would leave work, pick me up, drive straight back here and go. And he would make it just the next shift for him to go to work. So at any time when I call him, he would do that. And he said, when I got older and him and I talked about it, because now as an adult, I love my kids, but you got to give me some notice. Like, is you in danger? Do you need to call 911? Like, what's the situation? Because I can't just drive the many hours, right? So when I became an adult and I saw that was such a sacrifice for him, and him and I had that discussion, he said the reason why he did that is because he wanted me to know that whenever I called on God, he would always be there. And since I was his first, he was my first deity in a way. You know, he always taught me about God, but we always see God the way we view our dads, right? So he said he wanted me to know that no matter where I am, what I've done, whether I feel I'm wrong or right, whatever the situation is, whenever I call on God, I could always depend on him showing up for me. And that's why he did that for me. And what?
That's something, because Curtis, I'm telling you, he was phenomenal in that regard. And I don't have any daughters, but had God blessed my wife and I with a daughter, I can definitely see myself doing that for her as well. I'm telling you, some days I wish I had a daughter, but he did. Hey, nothing.
You're like, so what's up tonight? What we okay.
But yeah, when you have a daughter, I'm sure things it just hit a little different. So I understand why he did that for you. I applaud him. He was phenomenal. He introduced me to music. So
he had a music collection like
listen, you don't even know.
Funny. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I can see that. So yeah, he will definitely be missed.
Yeah, he will. Thank you. Thanks for that. Newbie, I know that you are, I can see it. What you're not going to do is make me cry, first and second of all.
I'm not.
Okay, go ahead.
I know Chanelle was over there crying, and I was like, don't blink, don't blink, don't blink.
I'm not looking at y'all, I'm looking above y'all like, so.
Don't blink, don't blink. And Mark, I was like, don't blink. No.
Susie, I was like, just smile through it. Yeah, okay, because I can't. Okay.
So I want to say, first and foremost, thank all of you guys for allowing me to hear about your parents. And Mr. Curtis, I see him and hear him every day when I talk to you. So
oh my goodness.
He lives every single day. Because every conversation you say something about Mr. Curtis or like Mr. Curtis, so I know it. And so my father passed away in 2004, March of 2004. And it was out of the blue. He went to the doctor on a Monday and they said, you have 6 months to live, and he died the next Monday. And he went from being fully functional to, by Wednesday, he couldn't walk. By Friday, he was unresponsive. By Sunday, they were like, there's nothing. And then he was gone Monday. So it was such a blink that my Superman died. And it was almost like, this can't be, like, this isn't real. I kept pinching myself, like, I'm gonna wake up and call and my dad is gonna pick up the phone. He was everything to me. He was my best friend. He was my hero. He was my standard of living. He was everything that I wished I could be and everything that I hoped I could live up to. And so the thing that I would want more so than anything else, because we had a conversation the day after he found out that he had a terminal cancer. And he was like, I'm just worried about you. I don't know where you're going in life. And at the time, I was kind of like, I had big ideas, but I was still kind of floating and not really like solid. I wasn't solidly working. I was like, I have a job. And I'm like, Dad, I don't like that. You know? And he was like, well, you know, stable income is a good thing. You know? But I would want him to see that I've grown as a responsible person. I'm responsible, that all the lessons and all the things that he told me are deeply ingrained in my heart and my mind and my spirit. When he passed away, I only had one child and I've had more children. And I would want him to see the type of mother and parent that I am and how he's influenced that. And just more so that, like, integrity. He was a man of such integrity and he was a man of such truth. And that is what I live by. And so I would just really hope that I made him proud and hope that he knows that everything that happened that wasn't always good in the past had nothing to do with how I feel about him in my heart. So that would be, I would just, hope that my daddy is proud of me and that he see, like, I grew up, and now, like, I'm chasing my dreams and I'm accomplishing my dreams every day. I'm one step closer to everything. I've accomplished things that I told him about in that conversation.
Man.
Like that, I want to write, and that I want to live a life where the things that I feel like are in my heart can be out. I want to help people, and I've done all of those things. It's gone, and I think I'm doing something right because people that have never met him feel like they know him.
Absolutely.
Because of the way I talk. So my kids have never met him, but they know him, and that's, so I would just hope that I made him proud.
You did. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. I know, I want to clap like, yes.
This is for everybody.
Yes,
Yeah, I was just like praying. First of all, you guys, thank you so much, Nubian. Let me tell you something. Your dad would have these kids so spoiled.
He would.
This would be.
He would.
He would be worse than me. Okay. First of all,
my dad would come and see my daughter. My daughter was 7 at the time he passed away. My dad would call me at 11 o'clock at night, and he was like, "I'm coming to see my baby." And I'm like, "Dad, she sleep." He was like, "I want to watch her sleep."
Yeah.
And he would just come over to stand in the door and watch her sleep. And he's like, "Okay, I'm going home now." He kissed me on my cheek, and he's like, "I'll let you know when I made it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I know. Because Daddy was like that with AJ. I mean, that was his other little princess child.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. And I'm with you on that. Thank you so much for sharing. We all have learned something from our parents who have been in our life, whether they're here active or whether they've been absent. It still molds us and makes us into the people that we are today. And so I thank my parents for the lessons that they've taught me, good and bad, and everything in between. All right, moving on. This first chapter was really, really heavy. Like I said, it is the foundation for the entire book. So in this first chapter, I also discuss about how my brother's friend who was 16 molested me when I was 8 years old. This went on for about 6 years. And I was afraid to tell anybody because I had so much guilt and shame that I felt like it was my fault. I also felt dirty, and I felt that if my dad had known, because this is a child's mind, right? As close as me and my dad were, I felt like if he had known, he would view me differently. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just wanted to remain his little girl. And I was no longer a little girl because of the things I had been exposed to. So I was very much alone, and that was one of the broken pieces that I had to pick up. So being an adult now and having my children and always speaking to them about safety, and if someone says something or does something that's inappropriate, you need to tell me, even if they threaten you or they threaten me. Just having those conversations with them. I wish I had those conversations with my parents. If I knew then what I know now, I would absolutely have told someone. I would have absolutely told my dad. I would have absolutely told a counselor at my school or someone that I trusted, so the situation could have been rectified. But what happens when you're abused, you also start to relate to your abuser, right? Trauma bonding, or you just feel like they groom you in such a way that they also make you feel like it's your fault, or that you were participating in the act, even though you can't give consent at such a young age. So I just hope that we all have those conversations with our children. And when I was thinking about this chapter, one thing that I want to ask you guys, if you can go back in time and talk to the little boy or the little girl what is one thing that you would tell yourself, and how old are you when you go back to tell yourself this thing?
I'll start. I would go back to 4, 5,
Mm-hmm.
and I would tell myself that there is power in your voice. There is power in your voice and scream when somebody does something wrong. And not just in the sense of screaming out loud, but just to continuously don't quiet yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I in the abuses that I suffered, I didn't have a voice until I was a grown-up. I just was taught to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught to be quiet. And I know now that if I had spoken up, if I had advocated for myself with my voice and just used my voice and told everybody, this is happening. Somebody's doing something.
Mm-hmm.
This is bad. If I would have just been able to utilize my voice earlier in my life, so many things could have been different and avoided and changed. And it took me to be a grown-up to understand the power in just speaking. And so I would go back and tell myself, girl, scream, girl, yell, make a fuss.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
I would say to my little self, younger self, because I'm still little.
You're still little. Yes.
Right, I'm still little. My younger self, probably about the age of 4 or 5, maybe 6. Like you, Nubian, use your voice. Don't let anyone, shut you up. But but also to have courage.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know at that age to have courage to speak your mind, because growing up, that household that I grew up in, if you did something, go sit down, go to your room, so we was not always in the presence of adults. You couldn't always um, have a conversation with adults because kids were to be seen and not heard. you know. So I would tell my younger self that at that young of an age. I mean, even though I was smart, but being smart and allowing someone to do things because you don't want to get in trouble, even though it's them, but you don't want to get a whooping, for allowing them, or for even telling, because you don't know if you would get in trouble. You just never wanted to get in trouble, so you never said anything, because ultimately it's going to be your fault. At least that is what our thought process was. At least my thought process was, if I tell, I'm going to get in trouble, because it always happened that way. If you tell, you going to get in trouble. And who wants to get in trouble? Who wants to get a whooping?
Right.
So I will most definitely tell myself to have courage, not to be afraid, you know, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Yes.
your fault. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I
sharing.
just have to definitely piggyback both off of Nubian. You articulated that so well, and also Sean. Your voice is so important. A lot of times when you suffer abuse, you just feel muted. You know what I mean? And your voice just seems to be stolen from you, and you do have to reassure yourself, even as an adult, that it's not your fault. Just going off of what Sean said, and I would say I would speak to that child who was about 4 years old, because I think that was my first instances dealing with sexual abuse. And there are so many commonalities with everyone here that's disclosed at this time. And I guess the other thing that I would want to say to 4-year-old me, that, you know, it's okay to heal. And healing it's ugly. You know, a lot of times we think that healing is supposed to be a beautiful process. The end result is beautiful, but growth, even when you fall and you scrape your knee, it's ugly. It goes through stages, and there are things that have to take place in order to get it back. And the skin might not look exactly the way that it looked prior to the bruise, but it's something that's beautiful there because it represents the fact that you were able to survive and you were able to come through on the other side.
Absolutely.
And what I would tell young me is to believe in you. That everything that God has for you to do, your purpose, your calling, your walk, the things that God has equipped you with, it's all in you. Access you, believe in you, don't limit yourself, don't mute yourself, be strong, and you've got this. That's what I would tell young me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Absolutely. I agree 100% with every one of you. And Mark, if you can go back to young you in your little mini suit, what would you say to yourself? How old would you be?
You know what? I don't even want to. I really don't have anything to add because my heart goes out to everyone, hearing you all's backgrounds and everything else. I don't have that story. My mother watched me like a hawk. She knew my every step. There are certain things I wasn't allowed to do that I wanted to do because she didn't know if the instructor at the boys club was going to touch me inappropriately. This, that,
Listen.
and the third. I thought she was overreacting back then, but no, it's a real thing. And you know what? I hear so much of you saying, it's not your place to have courage at 8, 9 years old. That's your parents' job. You know what I mean? And that's what she was for me. They watched out and they made sure we were safe and everything else. So it infuriates me because, certainly not to put her business out there, but, my mother dealt with being touched inappropriately. My wife, and people go through things, young women go through things, and it infuriates me because you shouldn't have to deal with that, and it just gets me upset. I mean, and that's another reason why I probably don't have girls to this day. God knew, because you know what? There's no talking. Somebody's gonna pay.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay. You touch mine.
Yeah.
You touch mine, it's gonna be consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry each and every one of you all had to deal with that. I don't know what it is to live with that. I don't have a clue. I mean, to go back and tell my younger self something, by Google, by Facebook, by stock in Facebook.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Come on now, let's get paid.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's all I got. Because
When I get the time machine, I'm gonna find all of our little cells and be like,
Yeah.
we'll get
Girl,
together.
listen.
Yeah.
We gonna make Google, okay? We gonna make the black Google. This
I'm
joint.
on Facebook. What you say?
Good Facebook, Instagram.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, Mike. I feel you. And we don't all have to have the same experience to want to go back and, even tell ourselves something like that could benefit us today. Because one thing that I realized as a child, I felt like everything was absolute. Everything was concrete. What I felt at that moment would be how I feel forever, right? So if I had an opportunity to go to myself and say, girl, breathe. This is temporary. Things will get better. Life will be easier. You will enjoy yourself. You're going to prosper. If I could just speak that life into little me, my childhood would have been so different. But everything just felt so heavy. I just always felt like I was carrying these ton of bricks, and I didn't know that I could put them down. No one told me it was an option to put it down because it was too heavy, right? So that's one thing that, another thing that I will go back and absolutely let myself know that this is temporary, this too shall pass, and you are going to be okay. Because I never knew I would be okay as a child. You know what I mean? I never knew I would be safe or happy. And one thing that I found that once my dad left the home, that opened up my doors for that abuse to start happening. He wasn't the first one. He was the first one, but he wasn't the last one to do something like that. And I think the lack of the father in the home opens up those doors for the predators to feel more comfortable coming in and doing what it is that they want to do to violate children. And back in 2015, or maybe earlier than that, the statistic was that children were 33% more likely to be sexually abused by their mother's partner or a family member, someone that they know, if there's no father in the home. So that's something to absolutely think about and to consider, because like Mark said, somebody touch his daughter, it's over. You know what I mean? And so if you had that father figure there to be your barrier, to be that safety net for you in the home, people are less likely to violate you. It still happens, but they're less likely to do it. I want to thank you all today for sharing. We're about to wrap this up. I want you to give yourselves a hand for showing up and showing out and telling your story and sharing. And I know this was not the most comfortable thing for you, Mark, okay?
He did amazing.
But
He
you
did.
You show up for your cousin, and I am so grateful to you. Thank you so much. You didn't die. See, it wasn't that bad, was it? You gonna call me later? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about it. But I just want to thank you all for participating in this discussion today, and thank you all for watching. I want you to remember to check out my store, yearofyushima.net. The link is below. There you will find the book collection, which is a collection of clothing that goes along with the chapters in my book. So today we're releasing chapter 1 of my clothing line at yearofyushima.net. You'll also see chapter 1 chapters, which is what you're watching right now. Every single piece was inspired by a story from the chapter in my book that coincides with the name of the collection. I'm sure you'll find something for yourself or someone that you love. Also, remember to check out the products and the services from our panelists today. Their links will be below as well. I want you to have a great day. And until next time, be bold, make a statement, and be empowered. Thank you.